will be talking about the possibility of Kuina being alive, what role she will play in the upcoming arcs of the story. More specifically, the Wano Kuni arc, and how she survived and what she is doing now. Let's begin this discussion video. I hope you enjoy. Koshiro told Kuina, his own daughter, that she could never become the world's greatest swordsman because she was a girl. This seems to be a popular belief in Wano Kuni that women are inferior to men. But later on, after he had told Kuina that, Kuina ran away and was found by Zoro on a hilltop, on the top of the hill, where they fought with real swords and made that promise that one of them would become the world's greatest swordsman. After Zoro told Kuina he didn't care what gender she was. Beating her, she was the only person he could never beat, and beating her was his goal, and she was making him look like an idiot by crying over the fact that she was born a girl. The fact that she was upset about being born a girl is not going to be brought up again in the theory. I just needed to mention it. But let's move on to the next part of the theory about how Kuina faked her own death. Now I believe on the night the Revolutionary Army came to their hometown, Kuina asked Dragon if she could come with him and join the Revolutionary Army, because she realized that her father was going to try to stop her from becoming the world's greatest swordsman. She realized her father, sexism, I guess you could say, was in the way of her goal. So, with the help of Ivanko's hormonal Delivert abilities, she faked her own death. And if it wasn't Ivanko, I am sure Dragon has some Revolutionary Army member that can fake a dead corpse. They probably faked the entire thing, and now everybody, including her father, believes she is dead. Now, I do not believe she stayed with the Revolutionary Army for very long, but I will get into that in the next part of the video. I believe Kuina, after learning about Wano Kuni, just from all the time she spent with Dragon and his men, I believe she would eventually learn about it, decided to go there and just try to defeat their Shogun and become the Shogun of Wano Kuni, and when she felt ready, challenged Dracula Mihawk to a fight. Now, I believe during the period of time, Kinemon, Momonoke, and Kanjiro were away from Wano Kuni, Kuina defeated their Shogun and became the first female Shogun in the history of Wano Kuni. I believe that because when you think about it, Wano Kuni is the Straw Hat's next major destination. And it's going to be a very Zoro-centered arc, so I believe this would make it very interesting. But let's move on to the rest of the theory. If you remember Zoro's sword, Shiu, I think it's pronounced. You know the one I'm talking about, though. Well, his sword is the national treasure of Wano Kuni. And Kinemon already said, in his eyes, according to his understanding, Zoro defiled Ryuma's grave to take it. Though that is not the case, Ryuma gave it to him after Zoro defeated him in battle on Thriller Bark. But what I believe is that Kuina has been, since faking her death, kept up to date with the news in the world. So I believe, after the events of Alabasta, she eventually heard about the pirates Straw Hat Luffy and pirate hunter Roanoa Zoro. I believe she then proceeded to keep us to date with the Straw Hats because she realized the Zoro in the wanted poster was the same Zoro from her childhood. So, I believe when you hear Pirate Hunter Roanoa Zoro and the Straw Hat Pirates are in Wano Kuni, most likely causing some kind of trouble, she will go and seek out Zoro. Also, as the Shogun of Wano Kuni, she will most likely feel responsible for getting back their national treasure, being Zoro's sword, Shushu. I believe this will cause them to eventually go to battle. But let's save that part for the next part of the series. What I believe will happen is that Kuina and Zoro will decide to have a friendly battle. Because I do believe if Zoro was to explain what happened, on Thriller Bark to Kuina, I do believe Kuina will take his word for it. But I do believe Zoro will be tremendously angry at Kuina because, she faked her own death, made him feel terrible, made him really, really, that hurt him. Because Kuina was more than just his rival, she was also his friend. So he was very upset to hear his friend had died. So I believe Zoro will say, Kuina, instead of waiting until one of us becomes the world's greatest swordsman, we're both really strong now. Why don't we settle this once and for all? I do believe Zoro and Kuina will fight. A friendly fight. However, I do believe it could lead in, possibly, to something a lot of fans have been wanting ever since Arlong Park. You have to remember, Kuina is a woman. No matter what Kuina says, Sanji isn't going to care. He's going to treat her the same he treats any other woman. There may be more backlash, as in he may get more injured, because I don't think Kuina would take that kind of treatment, or like being treated like that. But it's Sanji, let's be honest. He doesn't care. But the point is that in Arlong Park, after Nami announced she killed Usopp, Zoro was ready to attack Nami, and that the first fight of the series between Sanji and Zoro was triggered by Zoro nearly attacking a woman. So, what if Sanji gets mad at Zoro because he was going to attack a woman, and Zoro tells Sanji that, it's none of your business. This is between me and Kuina. And Sanji's like, if you want to hurt a woman, it is my business. And Kuina Kuina agreed with Zoro, that's none of Sanji's business. I believe Sanji won't care what they say, and will say, if you want to fight this woman, you'll have to fight me. So I believe in the process of the Kuina and Zoro having a reunion and having a rematch, we will get the first ever real fight between Zoro and Sanji, which I believe Zoro will come out as the winner. But let's move back onward to the Kuina and Zoro fighting part of the theory. This was just a little extra I felt like adding in. Now, I do believe Zoro will defeat Kuina, but I believe Oda will find a way to make it appear that he beat her because he's a better swordsman than her, because of skill alone, not because he's a man and she's a woman. I don't know how he'll do that, but I don't know how he'll find a way to make that to do a visual display of that. Because, saying it is one thing, but visually showing it is a whole nother thing. And, making sure it's obviously the reason is skill, and his training method and his skill is the reason he won, not his gender. I believe he will win because he's a better swordsman than her, and they will both know that. Kuina will accept defeat and be like, you finally beat me. It's still 1 to 2001, though. The point is that because Zoro needs to defeat the Shogun of Wano Kingdom. To be the world's greatest swordsman, you have to be strong enough to defeat any swordsman in the entire world in a duel. You have to be literally the strongest swordsman. So, yeah, I don't really know in depth the kind of role Kuina will play. It will be a major role, I can guarantee you that. And I do believe Wano Kuni, if I am correct, will also heavily involve sexism and, women not, the rights of women and stuff, like along those lines. Because Oda has already done slavery, racism, he's already done all that. So what better do you have to do than sexism? What else is there to do? Those are like three really good things he could do. So this is my theory to the Wano Kuni arc and Kuina being alive and being the Shogun of Wano Kuni. I hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day.